Welcome. We're going to take a look here at procedural and how-to writing, and we're going to look specifically at how we can create thesis statements and support that would work with this particular writing style. So let's just review quickly what is procedural and how-to writing. So what procedural and how-to writing does is that we are going to demonstrate something to our reader. We're going to describe with really clear language how to accomplish some task or how to solve some problem. Our purpose is to teach and to instruct. So our readers are really depending upon us to be very clear in our writing so that they can understand what it is that they need to do and how to do that. Let's take a look here at a couple of different examples of thesis statements that could be used in procedural writing. So our first example here, the only questions to ask when taking your car to the dealer. Okay, so this one could be used by, let's say, a brochure that's explaining what questions that a person should ask when they're taking their car to the dealership. Okay, so maybe you got a new car and you're not used to all of the new bells and whistles that it's got, but you know that you've got to take it in after 5,000 miles or something like that for a checkup. So this brochure may be a good guide for you, a good procedural guide to let you know which questions that you should be talking to your mechanic about when you bring in your vehicle, okay? So this thesis statement here then will guide the rest of that piece of writing, that brochure. Let's take a look at our second example. Our best gluten-free cake baking starts with almond flour. So at this one here, I would expect that we're going to go into a recipe for gluten-free cake baking, or perhaps a description of almond flour and how it can be used, or something along those lines. So as I'm going through this piece, I'm going to start out here at the beginning with our best gluten-free cake baking starts with almond flour. That tells my reader we're talking about almond flour here. If you want to read an article about, say, rice flour, you need to look at a different article because this one is about almond flour. Our readers are going to know after reading that thesis statement right away exactly what's going on here, and that this writer's opinion is that the very best gluten-free cake baking, it's going to have the almond flour. It may have the soy flour, the rice flour, or something else, or it may have none of those. It may just have the almond. But we know the direction of this piece of writing because of that strong thesis statement. Let's take a look at our last example here. Begin your shed project with a reinforced concrete foundation. Now, people who are experts at shed building may say, oh, you don't really need that. You really just need something else. You need flat ground. You need wood. You need something else, right? But remember that our thesis statement is supposed to be an arguable opinion. It needs to be debatable. It can't be just a statement of fact. We need a thesis statement that is very strong, that is going to guide the writing and ensure that the reader totally understands what it is that that piece is about, okay? So this writer here on this piece, I would expect that this thesis statement about the shed is probably going to be a piece that's going to explain to us how to build a shed. And we're going to start out with a reinforced concrete foundation in those directions. Now, how are we going to support a thesis statement in a procedural piece? Because that seems a little bit odd, right? That seems a little bit funny. It feels more natural and feels like it's going to make more sense when we are in persuasive or expository writing, but procedural feels a little different sometimes. What we're going to use for our support are going to be these things you see listed out here. We're going to give demonstrations. We're going to give explanations. Okay, we're going to write out really specific instructions. Now, these can be in any kind of format. They can be in a list format like you see in recipes. They can be in a narrative format, as you'll see in long explanations. They can be in a bulleted format. They can be very visual. We could include pictures and graphic organizers as part of our support. All of that counts. Because of the way that procedural and how-to writing is used in creating recipes and directions and repair manuals and all of this kind of thing, our support is going to look a little bit different than the way that it looks in our traditional essay, article, or blog format. Okay? And of course, our articles and blogs can certainly be recipes, right? They can be directions. We can also include comparisons or contrasts. We can include either, or we can include both. We can include the results of practice, application, and survey results. Those are very useful to people because then they can see, oh, hey, all of these different construction people all use this concrete method and it worked out really well. So maybe that's the best way to go. Okay, I'm convinced I'm going to use that method too. We're going to include evidence and we're going to include anecdotes. This is all the different kinds of options that you could use for supporting your procedural thesis statement. One thing that's really important as you're wrapping up a piece of procedural writing is that you always leave your reader with a completed, presentable product. Okay, they really do want to understand how these instructions work. How are they going to get to that point of that completed product in the same way that you, the expert, were able to complete it? Okay, so if someone is learning how to change their oil on the car for the first time, by the time that they get through those directions, they want to make sure that they've really got their oil changed and they haven't made some terrible mistake. Okay, so you want to make sure that by the end of that piece that you have left them with that completed product, that piece that is presentable so that they totally understand what's going on and they totally understand that yes, they too can complete the same task. So this is procedural and how-to writing. You've got examples here on thesis statements that you can use and a list here on different ways that you can support those thesis statements. I hope that this is useful to you in your writing and good luck with it. Good luck with your writing.